Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to pretty much break the game with chain attacks. The goal of this video is for whenever you initiate that chain attack button, your enemy is as good as dead. So I'm going to be showing you a few ways to do it. Obviously the thumbnail has a pretty insane damage ratio. That'll be at the end of the video because that uses easy mode and abuses some mechanics with the chain gauge. So to start, I'm going to show you how you conduct a chain to do a lot of damage in hard mode. So to begin, we're going to start with Matthew. Matthew is kind of our break user, since a lot of the I'm going to assume that people are fighting super bosses. So we got to get somebody who can use break. Shulk is also going to serve this purpose because of how annoying the super bosses can be. So you can just run some accessories for increasing accuracy, and then obviously you're going to need Break Brooch, and you're definitely going to need Veneris Fangs. This is required. You need to get this. So I would recommend fighting Abasi, the level 100 super boss, and farming him on easy before doing this on hard mode. You do need these Veneris Fangs. These are required. And then Strategy Manual 10. All the locations for all these manuals and even the accessories are going to be in a sheet in the description. I'll link that and you can check it out all there. This heroic chain multiplies damage ratio by 1.5 upon completing an order. This is going to be used to increase our damage ratio gain because hard mode is really stingy with what they give you. Next is A. So with A, you're going to be using pretty much anything. Like I have Thermo, just for some more crit, and then Solace and some healing items on there. The A doesn't really matter what you use. What does matter is Tactics Manual 14. This is required, of course. Charges chain gauge and grants power charge to all allies. This is super useful. Gives us an extra round. We absolutely need this. Even in worst case scenario, if you don't end up getting A in either round 2 or 3, you can still complete this chain. I tested it. You can still do it and still kill Abasi on hard mode with around 50 million damage in the chain. Next is Nickel. He is kind of our TP character, so it doesn't really matter what you give him here. But he does need Veneris Rings as well. This is required, and he needs this heroic chain, which will, when chosen, assures self reactivation. So essentially, you can always get him back at no cost. He's going to be super useful for the first 2 rounds of the chain. Next is Glimmer. You can kind of put whatever on Glimmer. Again, the one thing you do want is probably some healing and then crystal earrings to help you get chain attack gauge faster. Because the faster you get the chain, the faster the enemy's going to die. And this completion bonus is also, every completion bonus I list here is required. So during a chain attack, increases critical hit damage bonus by 150 percentage points. This is broken. It is absolutely broken. You need to use it. It's so good. And I believe it's not even terribly difficult to get. So yeah, super good. All the links for the spreadsheet on how to get all these items will be in the description. Next is Shulk. Shulk kind of just sits there to be used as his heroic chain, which is another chain just like Matthew's. Shulk, you just need to use him in some of the rounds to get the 1.5 multiplier for the chain damage ratio. Additionally, you're going to want Break Brooch, Analyzer Scope, and Auto Balancer. All are pretty good on him. You don't need Auto Balancer, but it's just nice to have because Abasi is super annoying. You're going to want Break Brooch. Again, like this is focused on just getting breaks. For Rex, I'll go back to accessories. You're going to want just damage. It's just pure damage. Right, our unities are set up to where you don't need to run thermal headgear on Rex, so you can just run more damage. Sunlight Ring against Fog Beast. Replace this with whatever you want for more damage. Saturni Rings, again, from Abasi. And then Fiber Wraps, damage increase when launched. And then, this is important as well, his manual is prevents order from completing when if it reaches 100% through this character's action. So, essentially, like base game, this is the same function as Melia's heroic chain. It's going to be super useful. And then finally is Niall. You can kind of give her whatever. I don't even use her in the footage that I have for this video, but you can if you manage the TP a bit better. But this is important. Tactics Manual 3. You need to have this. Reduces enemy physical defense by 75 percentage points. It's super broken. It's what allows Rex to put in like the bulk of our damage, if not all of it. Yeah, you need this. Okay, let's run through. I'll show you all the gems here. You can just pause. I don't really need to explain any of them. I will be explaining the fusion arts though, because those are kind of important. All right, so Matthew, the fusion art that matters, you can do whatever you want with these four, but I have energy boost and revolt uppercut. These have to be paired. The reason for that being is that can grant power charge to your entire party. This needs to be paired. Don't go without this. I'd use the damage art on the bottom, Skyfall, Shaker Edge in the chain, and then Sword Mirage and Cross Ray are good for healing. Same with Lost Ray and Light Field. So I would recommend following my fusions for all three of these arts. Next is Nickel. I have this disengaged on purpose because I use it just in case I get too much TP with Shulk on the first round. So I would recommend having one of his arts not tied to anything. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. As long as his launch art is there, you're all good. Glimmer. Glimmer's arts fusions are very important. You need to have this first one here, Burning Garland. Pairing Burning Ballad with Great Garland. This allows you to do AoE, crit rate, and crit damage up. Super important. This is used throughout the chain, and before the chain, you need this. Next, you can fuse the other ones with whatever you want, realistically. The other two don't matter. Shulk, I would recommend fusing Monado Armor with Slit Edge, just because you can get the AoE from Monado Armor. And then, yeah, nothing else really matters for his fusions. Rex, you can do crossplays. You can even do, I believe Sword Bash works as well, whatever. I think I just have this to guarantee some crit. And then you can do Rolling Smash with Dual Blast. Either way is good. Yeah. And then Niall doesn't really matter. Do whatever you want. Okay. And one last thing for the affinity chart, you can assume that everyone is filled out. But Shulk in particular, you need to make sure you do not have this TP. Or else if you do, you're going to get too much. So yeah, don't use this TP on him, because I give him Analyzer Scope, not Veneris Rings, Analyzer Scope on purpose, so you get exactly as much TP as he needs to get. So one quick thing, I forgot to mention what our Unity pairings actually are. So for this chain, we're going to be using a kind of simple Unity pair up. We're going to be pairing Matthew with A. This is just because there's nothing else to really need to do. Matthew and Rex have a really strong Unity. It's incredibly good, but because I'm using the orders in the way I am, I need to pair Glimmer with Rex. In my easy mode strategy, I pair Matthew with Rex for a lot of damage, but in this case, Glimmer needs to be paired with Rex just because of how I designed the chain. So yeah, Matthew with A, then Nicole with Shulk. This is just whatever, just because it doesn't take up any room for the other ones. And then, of course, Glimmer with Rex. Boost all allies' critical rate by 20% and critical hit damage by 50 percentage points. That's the big one. Yeah, so again, at the end of the video, you'll see my crazy chain. That I use Matthew and Rex, which I think is better overall, but in this case, you're going to want to use Glimmer and Rex together. And yeah, let's move on to the chain footage. Okay, everyone, so pretty soon we're going to be starting the chain here. I just need to make a quick note. You need to use Burning Ballad, Great Garland Fusion, or even just the Burning Ballad side on Rex before the chain starts. And additionally, you're going to need the enemy to be either broken or toppled. If it's launched, you're not going to get enough TP and it's not going to work. So either broken or toppled. In my case, I get the topple, and you can see right before the chain starts, Glimmer uses her buff. So to start the chain, you need to get the Niall order. It's required. And then you're going to start with Shulk here. This just initiates the chain and gets you that 1.5 multiplier. Then Nicole for more TP. Remember, he gets the guaranteed reactivation. And then you're going to finish off the round with Rex and subsequently Matthew. This will always be the case. You'll always be using Rex's launch art, and then right after you'll always be using Matthew's power charge AoE art. So in round 2, you can either get Glimmer or A. I would strongly recommend getting Glimmer because it gives you a lot more damage. But if you get A and not Glimmer, just choose A. It's priority to get A in round 3, but sometimes chain order RNG isn't really the kindest. So with Glimmer, you start with Nickel here, just to get some more TP in the guaranteed reactivation, and then you're going to move to Glimmer's buff, and then, like I said, you're going to finish with Shulk, and then Matthew, launch art with, not Shulk, excuse me, launch art with Rex, and then power charge with Matthew. But the reason why you want A in round 3, and especially on normal and easy, on easy you have to get A in round 3 because you want the 2 extra rounds. You can settle for round 2, but like I said, you just don't get as much damage. So in this next round, we're going to be getting A, of course. I already explained why it's important to get A in round 3. Glimmer's chain completion order gives us 150 more crit damage, which is amazing. On this round, we start with Shulk. Obviously, we didn't use Shulk last round, but we're using him again this round. Get the 1.5 multiplier in. And then we're going to be using Rex and then Matthew. We're no longer using Nicole, so for this round, we can only use 3 characters. So next round is going to be the final round before the duo unity pair. So in the next round, we're going to be using Rex. The reason why I have this set up this way is because we only have 4 order slots, and we need all 4 of what we got. So yeah, Rex is just the best to have last here. Start with Shulk again for the 1.5 multiplier. And then this is going to be a little bit different than the previous rounds. We're going to be using A next. And then after A, we're going to buff with Glimmer. With A, you can use any art, but Glimmer, you're going to obviously be using the buff art. And then, as in classic fashion, Rex, Matthew. Rex launch on art, and then Matthew power charge. So we've already got Abyss in here down to like half health, but a lot of the damage is going to be done in the final 2 portions here. Rex is going to be losing his power charge for the final round, which is unfortunate, but it doesn't really matter because we're still going to kill this thing. And that's the goal of this particular part of the video, is just to give you a chain that can kill anything in the game. And 70 million damage, which is what this chain will get. We'll do that for sure. This is final round, so you gotta use everybody again. Start with Shulk. I didn't TP manage well here. I could have used Niall in the previous round, but I didn't. So you can if you want. If you think you're going to go over TP, then don't do it. But like I said, a Glimmer buff, and then Rex Matthew. And that's pretty much it. Not really much else to talk about here. You finish off the chain, you get power charge back with Matthew for the red hot Aegis Light completion bonus. And you're going to be blowing this thing out of the water. On hard mode, they really reduce your damage ratio. So I wanted to make a chain that can not go for overkill damage, just to guarantee the kill while making sure your party's kind of safe while setting it up. 70 million, pretty solid. I go through the party here as well, even though I already did in the beginning. This is just standard. Yeah, so the general premise is just live, get the chain. Before the chain happens, make sure the enemy is either broken or toppled, and make sure you buff Rex with Glimmer's crit up. That's very important. If you don't do that, Rex might not get enough TP. I save here just to show that it was on hard, and then I view the totem. So now that this is done, we can move on to the easy mode chain. This is the chain that can get you the picture in the thumbnail that I have. So essentially in this, I kind of set up with the UM and the enemy on the right here. Prior to this UM, there are a few other enemies that you can kill to build up additives on the accessories, and you'll see those accessories later when I show you the full setup. I will also be showing the art fusions, and I don't recall if I go through the unities, but essentially I use Rex paired with Matthew, I use Glimmer paired with A, and I use Shulk paired with Nicole. Additionally, you're going to need to buff with Glimmer outside the chain, just like in the previous, but unlike the previous, you need to use break inside the chain, not outside. If you fail the break inside the chain, then just either reset or continue. So first, we're going to start with Shulk break. Actually, I need to make a note of this. I get Rex, but I wanted to get Niall for the first round. If this happens to you, just use Niall in round 4 instead. Normally, you'd want to get Rex in round 4. And then Matthew Matthew or Rex in round 4, and then either of those two in round 5 as well. But because I get Rex here, I use Niall. So yeah, Shulk, and then you get TP in reactivation with Nicole, and then I topple with Rex, and I power charge with Matthew. This chain is what was the original chain that I built the previous off, so a lot of the things that I do are very similar. For instance, every round will always be finished with Rex followed by Matthew. So round 2, you need to get Glimmer. You can get A, but if you choose A here, you lose out on damage. In easy mode, A gives you 2 rounds instead of 1. Nickel for launch, then you buff the party with Glimmer. And after Glimmer, you do the launch art with Rex and power charge with Matthew. I believe in it's either round 4 or 5, I switched to using double spinning edge instead of the launch art with Rex, and you'll see why. The amount of damage that you can put in with that is absolutely absurd. So in the next round, we'll be getting A. And if you look to the chain gauge on the bottom right, you can see that it'll be empty in just a moment here. If you look at that same chain gauge in the next round, you'll see that it's actually half full. So Shulk starts with his bleed art there. I forgot to mention that after the first round, whenever you use Shulk, you'll always be using the bleed art. He puts in a lot of damage with bleed, and you'll be able to see just how much that is later on. But it's quite impactful. So after this, I get Niall. Again, you want to get either Rex or Matthew, and get Niall at the beginning of the chain. But if you don't, it's okay, you can swap it around, get Niall now. If you get Matthew now, then the chain actually ends because it will move on right to the Unity. So Matthew, if you get Rex or Matthew in round 1, you have to get the opposite in round 5. Here I contemplate using Niall in the chain, but I don't because I think I'm going to go over TP. So I just start with Shulk Bleed, and then I use Rex. I believe I use the launch. Yes, I do. And then I missed the crit, which is unfortunate, and then Matthew power charge. So in the next round, I choose Matthew order, obviously, and I make an error. Since this is the second to last round coming up, you can actually use all your characters and they'll be reactivated in the round following because of the Unity order. I don't do this, I don't realize it, and I end up just using 3 characters. So I start with Shulk like normal, no, Matthew order, and then I start with Shulk like standard. Shulk Bleed. This will do a good amount of damage. So that's a 600k bleed tick. And then I go Rex, but what you should actually do is use Glimmer buff, and then A for damage, and then Rex launch art, and then power charge Matthew. It'll basically be the exact same thing that I do in this coming round, so just replicate that, ignore the fact that I messed up. Alright, Matthew order. You have to hit bleed with Shulk here. That's a cap bleed hit, and that's going to tick for 1.6 million per tick. And I believe that lasts like 40 seconds if I recall correctly. So it's completely insane. Bleed damage is quite strong. And in base game, it's even crazier. I actually don't even think my bleed hit was the cap. I think that was actually the second hit, but I can't tell. So yeah, Rex double spinning edge, caps all hits. All of the double spinning edge hits for 50 million. And then Matthew power charge. Now, one thing to note, as you can see on the top right of the health bar, the Ori's is in his weak state. That is important for this Unity because if you don't have that, you're not going to get the additional multiplier. And there you go. You got a 384 million damage chain attack. You can pretty much replicate that for anything and just obliterate anything in the game. So you can pause at any point in the video here to see what the build is. The main differences are with Shulk, to be honest. As you can see, I use a Rage Amulet. You need to get that Rage Amulet for the extra bleed damage. And there's a difference with his fusions as well. Instead of fusing Monado Armor with his bleed art, we fuse Monado Purge because damage reasons. And since you're playing on easy, you're not really going to need Monado Armor to be paired with AoE anyways. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. If there's anything that you want me to explain your chain attacks, just let me know in the comments and I can take a look. And otherwise, have a good rest of your day and take it easy.
If we beat it once,
see ya.
we can do it again.